I want you to imagine you're a student staring at your laptop screen. You're feeling stressed and overwhelmed. You know you want more in life, but you don't know where to start. But then you have an idea. You could start a business. You've always been passionate in entrepreneurship. You've got a great idea for a product or service, but you just don't know where to start. After all, you still are a student. You don't have much experience, and you just don't know if you're ready to take on such a big step. But then you remember a story of a young man named Mark Zuckerberg. When Mark was in college, he started a software in his dorm room that allowed people, the social media platform. He didn't know how big it would become or that would ultimately change the world. He just had an idea and he went for it. Now, this is one of the biggest businesses in the world, and Zuckerberg is one of the wealthiest men alive. And it's all because he took a risk and he went after it.
The truth of the matter is, though, many people are not willing to take that leap of faith, to take that risk that many people, including Mark Zuckerberg, take and get that immense amount of success. But the question that I wonder, and I'm sure many of you wonder, is why do more people not take that risk? Why do we not see people taking that leap of faith of trying to start their own business when they might not have the knowledge or experience that they need for it, considering the immense success that we see from people who do that very thing? Now, money certainly isn't everything, but wouldn't it make sense if more people at least took the attempt, at least tried to start their own company, their own business, or to do something a little bit out of the ordinary? And so the immediate question is why? Why are people not taking that risk? And in my opinion, it's because of something called the box. We, from the time that we're very little, are essentially taught a specific way of life. And any deviation out of that path, you might be met with rebukes or you might be met with criticism from those around you. Just think, how many of you, from the time that you were little, were taught that you have to go to high school, get high marks in high school, just so that you can get into a good university, just so that you can get high marks in university, so that you can get a job? You might not even like that job, but then you're forced to essentially work in that job so that you can find a significant other, get married, have a family, so that you can eventually retire. This is what I call the box. It's the standard way of thinking that we're taught from a very young age. The truth of the matter is, many people just don't take the leap of faith. They don't take the risk to break out of the box. It's like a staircase. You don't quite see the end of it. You're always trying to get that next step, but you don't actually know where it ends. And so not everyone is content with being stuck in that box. I, for one, have always looked for ways to kind of break out of that box and to look for new and innovative ways of doing things. And so for me, I'm not sure why I've been that way ever since, for as long as I can remember myself. If I had to guess, I would think that it's because of my family's background. So my family escaped the Soviet Union, and being from a place where people didn't have the ability to be creative, to be innovative, and to try and think of new ways of doing things that are outside of the ordinary, for me, I have always tried to take those opportunities in every experience I can, because I know that a lot of my ancestors didn't have that possibility. So when I was 12, and this is just a couple examples, but when I was 12 years old, I joined the Canadian Youth Military Program. It's called the Canadian Cadet Program. Some of you might know it. But basically, in that role, or in that program, I had crazy opportunities that I would deem to be very outside of the box of your traditional approach to life. By the time I was 16, I did a deployment in the UK and France, and I sailed through the English Channel. At the age of 18, I was the lead of one of 3 cadet training centers across Canada, where I directly oversaw over 370 staff cadets and over 5,000 course cadets throughout the summer. And more recently, I also did research with Professor Philippe Lassou on anti-corruption in West Africa, and I had the crazy opportunity to present my findings at the International African Accounting and Finance Conference in Cairo, Egypt, which I don't know how many of you have done that or if that's the traditional way of doing things, but for me, I think that that is definitely breaking outside of the box, and I would really urge all of you to try something new like that. Oh, and one more thing, despite all of these endeavors, there's always been one thing that I felt like I'm missing. which is starting my own business, something that's the ultimate risk, taking that ultimate leap of faith.
When I was in my final year of high school, I had a vision. I was going to come to Guelph, study geography, and become a full-time teacher. I come from a family of educators. Both my parents are teachers, and my sister just got her first teaching job. I didn't know anything else. But then, Dan and I saw a problem, and we decided to go after it. Now, I'm the Director of Finance in the Marketing Management Students Association. I'm starting my first internship at a finance firm. I have competed and won many different case competitions. And I say this because I honestly owe this all to entrepreneurship and taking a risk.
So let's talk about being stuck in the box. We know that this is a problem, as I'm sure many of us have experienced, but how bad is the problem really? Well, according to a survey by Gallup, only 13% of employees worldwide actually feel engaged in their jobs. And one of the main reasons that employees are not feeling engaged is because of that feeling of being stuck in the box. And it makes sense because when people feel like they're being forced to do something, when they're in that monotony of everyday life, people just don't want to go that extra mile. People don't want to go above and beyond in what they're doing. We can also see some other facts as well, which is that the standard ways of life also limit personal growth and creativity. Over 65% of individuals claim that they feel this way. And this is based on some studies by the University of California. And so we know that people are stifled when they're kind of following what they're essentially taught from a young age to do, which is to get those, to go each step of the way, go to university, finish, get a job. But people just aren't taking that leap of faith. So let's talk about why. Let's go back to the root cause. Why are people not jumping out of this box? Why are people enclosed in it and not trying new things, trying to involve themselves in new opportunities? Well, this is because, quite simply, people feel safe. When people do what they've been taught their entire life, we have 75% of people reporting a sense of security. People feel happy doing just what they've been taught to do their whole life and don't try and deviate, because the reality is we're scared of risk. It's human nature to be scared to take that leap of faith, to try new things, such as starting a company.
But how do Dan and I see it? Well, we find ourselves more engaged in a number of different ways. A major one being our classes. We don't just go through the motions anymore. We find ourselves paying absolute attention because we know that we can now take what we are learning and apply it into our business, and we know we need to capitalize on this opportunity. A lot of students have trouble paying attention because they just don't feel like what they're learning will translate into the real world. It's also helped us to accept failure and keep moving forward. Entrepreneurship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There are many roadblocks and obstacles, and as we know, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. In conclusion, take a risk, follow your dream, and turn it into a reality. And who knows, your idea might just change the world.
We'd like to end with one quote. And this quote came at a time of uncertainty for Jake and I, which is pretty common for people who are looking to take that risk. Again, it's human nature to be scared sometimes when you're trying new ways to break out of the ordinary way of life. Jake and I were expressing our doubts to an industry professional in the tech industry who was once one of the high-up officers in a technology company that changed the face of the planet. And what he told us in response to our doubts was that whether your business succeeds or fails, the skills you learn from entrepreneurship will always stick with you. Entrepreneurship is the ultimate co-op. Thank you.